Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Good. Welcome to Leading is Serving podcast.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us.
Hey, I'm always here, man.
Well, I know. I'm just letting everybody else know we appreciate them.
I'm glad
that
to
they're
be here.
listening.
I am glad. Yes, you guys, thank you for listening and tuning in.
Right.
Our audience of 50 million listeners. You know?
Right. We're 50.
Yeah. Hey, we're here to champion that. Leading is serving people.
It so is.
That we are fighting for the highest good of those that we serve.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's our whole thing around here.
Right.
So
this is what we rant and rave about.
Right.
Even when you tell me I'm getting on my tangents.
Yeah. Even the squirrels we chase have to do with that somehow.
Right.
At least we like to believe so. What have you been up to, man?
Oh, you know what? It's been busy. I know that we did a couple weeks ago. We're going to talk about this more, but we're talking about purchasing a business. Well, I was actually in the throes of purchasing a business,
Yeah.
and so finally that is done. And so
It's done.
but now there's a whole bunch of work to do.
Well, yeah, of course.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
who would have thought that you buy a business and you got to start working?
It doesn't come that easy, right?
Right? No, nothing ever does.
Yeah.
So it's just been busy, and my other business is I keep hearing everybody talk about the fact that it's potentially going into an economic issues coming, but yet my business, my renovation business, is taking off like crazy. So
Right.
I'm just trying to keep up with it all and trying to keep it in perspective. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting times we're going through.
Good.
So
Good.
yeah, I'm excited.
Glad you're staying busy.
Yeah, me too. How about you? What are you up to?
Always busy, yeah. Man, we are getting ready to head out of town next week.
Oh, did you forget to tell me and take me with you?
Yes. Intentionally.
Great.
This is a kid-free trip.
Oh,
And so
sweet.
we're traveling with some friends and getting a really, really good vacation.
That's
And
awesome.
So we try and do that about once a year.
Yeah.
For sanity's sake and
Right.
just for renewal and rest and stuff like that. And so, looking forward to getting out of town with my wife and
That's awesome.
and our oldest daughter's coming into town to take care of the youngers. So,
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, that's good news.
That's
good
news.
stuff.
That
So,
is good stuff.
So we're really excited about that.
So
And,
lesson learned for number one for today: always take at least a week off so that you can enjoy life with your wife.
Well, there you go.
I
There you
like
go.
that.
There you go.
So
That's good stuff.
yeah, it is.
So-
I'm proud of you for doing it. I'm proud of you for carving out the time to do it because it's not easy.
Well, we're very thankful for friends from Colorado that we're traveling with
Okay.
because they booked the room and said, "Hey, you want to join us?" We're like, yeah.
Right.
We're like, we'll be there.
That's awesome. Well,
so-
thank you for good friends then too.
Yeah, totally. So,
So what are we talking about today?
well, I'm a part of a group that we've been going through a book called The E-Myth.
Okay.
And I know this is a very popular book. I mean, there's
It
like
totally
30
is.
different editions,
Right.
and stuff like that.
It's been around for a minute.
Michael Gerber is the author to that. And, really, really had some beautiful insight into the entrepreneurial journey. And, and so as a group, we've been walking through this kind of, using it as a discussion guide a little bit
Right.
to talk about business development among our, respective industries that we're in.
Right.
And so it's been really cool.
Okay.
So really, I'm going to kind of want to piggyback off of that.
Okay.
And use that as a framework for what we're talking about because I thought it was just really, it was really insightful. I loved it. So we're kind of in the middle of the book
Okay.
where Gerber is talking about thinking of your business as a franchise
Right.
first.
Okay.
That often we sit in our business and we think about the products we need to offer and what marketing and where we're at on sales, how are we closing, what are we communicating, what's our is payroll getting out, and we think about all those day-to-day systems.
Right.
But what he's challenging entrepreneurs to think about is think about your business as the product itself that you're trying to sell.
Right.
That what if you don't have to. This doesn't have to be your goal to think
Right.
this way.
Nope.
But what if you were going to franchise your innovation business or the new business you just bought?
Right.
Or, that uses the example of Ray Kroc.
Okay.
Name sound familiar?
It does.
Because you've seen it on a plaque in your local McDonald's.
Oh,
Okay?
I did put those two together, but okay.
Yeah. Now, what I didn't fully understand is that Ray Kroc was not the originator of McDonald's.
Oh,
Yeah, so it was two brothers, and I can't remember their names, obviously, because,
but Ray,
because
doesn't matter.
Ray Kroc gets on the plaque, right?
Right.
But Ray visited the original McDonald's and saw the efficient systems that they had set up for producing a hamburger quickly, on time, with good quality.
Yeah.
And he saw the potential in that and thought, we can create a system around this.
Right.
And so, food service and stuff may not have been his number one passion, but what he saw was a system that can be repeated. And so he built one of the world's biggest franchises ever, right?
Right.
Through repeatable systems and predictable processes, he built this. And so he looked at a restaurant as a franchise, not as a hamburger that he's trying to sell to somebody.
That's interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so the challenge is for us to look at our business in that same manner of, what if we were going to franchise this? What if I was going to sell it to somebody in another town at, whatever decent franchise fee might be, I'm going to get a, couple $10,000 for the franchise fee, and then I'm going to give them resources and systems to run their business on so that they can be successful.
That's awesome.
Or if you want to think about it slightly different, is what if I'm just in this business for the next 3 years and then I'm going to sell it?
Yeah, that's
What do I have to have in place to be able to sell my business?
right.
And maybe that's, like I said, maybe that's never our goal in the end,
Right.
is to actually franchise or to sell. But we want to be successful where we're at.
Right.
If we're going to make it to the next level, what are the goals and systems, processes? What do
They
we
need
have
to
to
be
have
in
in
place.
place to be able to take it to that next level, right?
Right.
And so that's what Gerber is really kind of working through was, what are those things? How do you work on your business, not just in it?
Right.
Because when you're in it, you're just trying to,
Right.
you're worried about today's
Right.
income, tomorrow's outflow. Are we going to make ends meet?
We're gonna make payroll.
Right.
Like I've heard that so many times from other entrepreneurs.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's like
Absolutely.
it's a real thing.
Yeah. Or if you're a solopreneur, do I get paid?
Right. Even better.
Is there enough coming in that I actually get paid? Because that was kind of one of the goals here, right? And so we were just kind of processing, what are the things that we have to have in place that if we were going to sell it, or franchise it, what would be expected in that? So I'm just going to throw you on the spot. What are some of the things you think that if you were shopping around for a franchise, okay, put yourself on the other side.
Okay.
I'm going to buy into a business.
Right.
Okay. And what would you be looking for? What would you want to know about a business before you buy into it?
I think initially I would probably want to look at some sort of what their metrics are, what they measure. They measure
Okay.
their successes and losses by.
Right.
I would probably want to see, and at some level, like I think all of the businesses that you would look at or potentially look at come down to numbers too. Like financial numbers. Like obviously
Right.
that seems like a no-brainer, right?
Right.
But I think outside of the financial numbers side of things, I think it's a metrics on how they're dealing with their employees and how they're dealing with their customers, and what metrics that they're holding their employees at to try to hit so that they know they're growing. Because I think that's one thing that I've learned in my days of owning a business is that my coach has taught me, hey, you need to have metrics to be able to show you where you're going.
Right.
And I've never those process so that you can put processes in place to be able to know for sure that this stuff is going to happen. So I think those metrics are probably one of the key things that I would be looking at.
Okay. So you've got metrics, you've got everything around the numbers of profit, loss,
Right.
overhead, how are all these systems, how are all these income and outflow, how are all these working together?
Right.
Right. Okay.
And I would also think that relationships are a big thing for me. Like
Okay.
I want to know how people are treated and like, is it a cutthroat environment? Because if it's a cutthroat environment, I know that I'm out.
Right.
Like I can't function that way for me personally. I'm sure some people can, and maybe it's the right system for some people,
Right.
but it's not for me.
Right. Okay. So, and you mentioned a minute ago as well, the metrics for employees, how they are challenged to rise to the occasion,
Yep.
right? But in that, what you just mentioned is like the leadership culture.
Right.
What's the culture around the workplace? What's expected? Yeah. Is it a place that I jive with?
Right.
Okay.
And I think that, to your point, right? People start things for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I have a friend that he initially started a business with the expectation that he was hoping to sell in 5 years.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, exactly.
And he honestly threw me off when he told me that a long time ago, because his whole business strategy was to build it to sell it.
Right.
So
right.
he was constantly looking at the bigger picture to make sure that he
Yeah.
could sell his product, which was his business.
Right.
Which, like a franchise almost, but not. It was an individual business. He wasn't franchising out. He was just trying to sell that business. So, excuse me. So I think that knowing what the culture, knowing what the driving train is behind it is also going to affect whether I groove well with it or not. I guess if that's
Right.
does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But even in those numbers, though, you need to know, is there a system for me to execute payroll, like we mentioned a minute ago?
right.
Or do I have to create my own? Do I have to come up with my own, or do you have something that I can tap into? But then you even get into like other systems and processes that I would be curious about is like, what drives your lead generation?
Yes.
Is there a national, if this is a national franchise, is there a way that can kind of feed into me as well, being local or regional, or or do you have systems, or what tools are in place that will help me through this?
Right.
Do you have a sales system, something that helps me understand the business better to close on? Is somebody going before me saying, here's what's worked and here's what's not worked
Right.
when you're trying to sell this specific product?
Right.
Marketing.
Yep. Huge.
Who wants to muddle? We did say we might do a podcast on that one of these days of all the marketing options out there and
There's a lot
what
of
works.
stuff out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to wade through that swamp of stuff.
Right.
But who builds a website?
Yes.
I mean,
There's- Yes.
who manages the social media?
Not me.
Right. So, I mean, as I think about, as I thought about, what if I were to buy into a franchise, all of those questions come into play.
Right.
How much control does the franchise exert over the local,
right.
That was another one that kind of came to mind, is that
Yes.
some franchises seem to be a whole lot more tightly managed
Right.
than others. And so,
And I mean, the whole idea, like if you're buying a franchise, 9 times out of 10, there's a package that comes, like you're buying the business with a package. And the
Right.
package
Right.
includes A, B, and C. And oftentimes that is a bigger name, along with the marketing that goes with that, along with some already pre-purposed systems that they know work for other franchises around
Right.
the country, right?
Right.
So you're getting that as part of the franchise fee, or however they do that, right?
Right.
And
They've
then-
already put the research in. Here's the point of sale system that works great with our business, and here's some cash handling techniques or procedures for you to follow.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and oftentimes, like you said, in that prepackaged agreement, you use their person. You don't go outside of that to
Right.
do your own marketing, because the marketing's already run through this department, and
Right.
therefore, so if if you're going to buy this business that you're not going to have to deal with those things, but yet those are some of the things that you enjoy doing, then that's probably not the answer, because you're going to be beating your head against the wall trying to fix something that's not in your control.
Right.
Does that make sense? So then, if you're buying a business that it's sole owner and it's not a franchise, then yes, you get to deal with all those headaches,
Right.
and more.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, they look like two different things, but there's just different reasons for different businesses. There's a different reason somebody's going to go after a franchise for a different purpose than they are their a sole business, a sole
Right.
owner
Right.
entrepreneur.
Yeah. So if you take a look at what we just did, we just named all the systems, or most of the systems that your business needs to succeed.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And so that's what I think Gerber is trying to get entrepreneurs to think through is, if I think of this as a franchise or a business that I'm going to build to sell, if I'm going to be able to sell it to somebody, and I'm going to sell them on, hey, joining this company is the best decision you could ever make, and here's why.
Right.
we've got to have these systems and processes in place.
Agreed.
And, and so, as you're building your business, you don't have a marketing department you can go to at the national level.
Right.
So what is your marketing process?
Mm-hmm.
What are the 3 or 4 things that you are going to show up in consistently, rather than, am I going to do the shotgun approach where I change gears every 2 weeks, or am I going to show up consistently in these channels and this is how we're going to run it?
Mm-hmm.
And who's going to do it?
Yeah.
How does it get done? How much money are you allocating to that?
Right.
Lead generation, payroll. All of these systems are things that we have to think through as business owners, that if we want to succeed and make it to the next level, we've got to put these in place.
And I would encourage you. I mean, you say that we should know them, and I'll be honest with you. When I first started my business, one of my businesses, I had an advertiser call me and be like, "So, what's your budget for this year?" I don't have a budget item for this year. Like I don't even know how much I want to spend on this. Like, you just tell me how much. Not that I would have completely given it to them at some level, because I don't think they really needed to know.
Right.
It was whether I wanted to do it or not. And
Yeah.
I get it, but I was doing the shotgun approach because I didn't know what would work for that particular business. And but I also knew that for me personally, with that particular business, I was trying to build a brand. I was not trying to just constantly seek out new revenue.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to build a brand that people could stand behind and know that what that brand means.
Right.
And so I had a longer term approach to it than hey, we just got to go get some people in the door. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And to be fair, with that particular business, the sticker cost was not $50. It was like
Right.
5,000 and above. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like you're not going to hit everybody at the grocery store to spend $5,000 when they went in to go buy $10 worth of groceries.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
Right.
But it goes back to the marketing. You just definitely got to know what you're trying to do and where you're going with it.
Yeah. And if you know in advance, I can only spend $100 or $200 a month on this. That's all I've got.
Right.
What's the mechanism?
Right.
Because one ad somewhere can totally drain that budget and next month's and the next month's.
Right.
And then you're kind of like, did I get anything back from that? So, knowing these systems in advance, help us grow.
Yeah.
Help us create structures that we can succeed in. Because go ahead.
Can I touch on a sideline there?
Yeah.
One thing that I think that is really huge that I've noticed with a lot of business owners that I know is that for those who are investing into their community are oftentimes more successful too, because they're not just constantly out there trying to receive from the community. They're also giving back to the community in that facet. And in that process, they're getting their name out there and people are trusting them more so by helping other stuff that's going on in the community.
There's some organizations that do that. They don't buy fancy big name marketing. And
so recognize, I guess what I want to bring up is, and I think this is valuable to our listeners, if you're a small business owner and you're not volunteering or investing into your local school, or even if it's your kids' school, like, I think it's huge.
Take a look at it. Absolutely.
I think it's worth your time. It might not be immediate.
Right.
Recognize it's a long game. But there is some huge value and huge relationships that grow from that, which is, I think it's huge.
Right.
Sorry.
No, you're good. That's a good word. That's a really good word.
So,
and so if you're moving from solopreneur to I'm hiring my first couple people, or now I'm actually developing teams that I have departments with. I have a sales department,
right,
and an accounting and a payroll department.
Right.
I mean, you're moving these systems and processes from your head. And you may have run them for 5, 10, 15 years on your own,
right? But
now you have to teach somebody else how to do those.
Right.
And
that's where the transition happens, isn't it?
Right. And no one's going to be like, you have to do this 100% exactly the way I would do it.
Right.
But here are the big keystone metrics that have to happen every time.
Right.
Payroll must happen by the first. That's kind of a big deal.
People will get grumpy if they don't get paid.
And so, you have to learn to Put these get them out of your head, clarify these processes, get them in a place where you can teach others to follow those.
Right.
You know,
And how many entrepreneurs are process people? I would say it's probably 50%. Maybe.
Sure.
So if
I mean, some are going to build a business based on here's the best way to do what we're after. You know, here's a product or service, and we can develop process and procedures.
Right.
And then others are going to build a business based on their connections, their relationships, the pride in their work, and
So if you're not, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I'm not that guy, have no fear. There is people out there.
Neither are we.
Right. Neither are we. For one, and two, there is people out there that are in love with this idea that they can create processes that come out of your head, because I know that I am not a process person.
Right.
However, I have a wonderful soul that helps me put those processes in place and helps me put them down on paper so that we have a better understanding of how to best move forward should something happen.
There are some incredibly talented people that have a knack for pulling those things out of your head.
Right.
And they enjoy getting it on paper and creating a system out of that. I mean,
and so I just recognize that you're, this is probably goes to talking about purchasing a business, but recognize your own talents and then recognize the talents that you're short on. It's okay.
Yeah.
Don't see this as discouraging. Recognize that as a strength. If you can see that stuff, I thought it was discouraging. I really did for a long time. But I honestly think that now recognizing my own abilities and other people's strengths has just been a huge blessing.
Right. So this is all well and good in theory, right?
Right.
This all sounds great.
Right.
And then you wake up tomorrow and you go, when am I going to do that?
Right.
Okay, tomorrow.
Okay,
maybe over the weekend. Tomorrow. No, I can't think about this anymore. Monday morning, I'm going to hit it strong Monday morning, right?
Right.
The tyranny of the urgent as a business owner is crushing. It really is.
It is.
And so how do I find space to just back away, to pull back? Like you said earlier, you're looking at the bigger picture. And, and Gerber goes on to say it, it's working on the business, not in the business. And that is a discipline.
Yes.
That's hard to capture because.
And, if you're a solopreneur, right? Sometimes it's as simple as doing one small task a day. I think I've realized that early on. I'm coaching a guy, and he called me this morning. We were chit-chatting. And, he had huge kudos. I had huge kudos for him today, because he took some steps that were more on the focusing on the business side that he needed to take. And even though they were small, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if I had been asked to do what he done, I don't know that I would have gotten done because I didn't enjoy doing it. But I also know that he was able to take the steps to do it. I probably would have, honestly, handed it off somebody else. But he was able, because he's by himself and can't hire somebody to do it right now. But in order to help build his business, to help focus on the bigger picture of things, he was able to take some steps. And you know what? They were small, but in his world, they were huge, which is awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what might seem small over time can slowly build up to a dam. You know what I mean? Like small nuggets can build up to a dam if you just take your time and build up slowly.
Right. So, I mean, if you take the same advice that you took in building your business from day one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about, you turned me on to the guy, Dan Miller.
Right?
Love 48 Days to the Work You Love, right? He says,
Shout out, Dan.
Set aside 15 hours a week.
Yep.
3 hours a day.
Yep.
Stop binging on Netflix, stop, whatever.
Right.
And put 15 hours a week into your side hustle, and you will have a full-blown career before you know it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I was listening to Amy Porterfield, Marketing Made Simple. She talked about somebody who was doing 15-minute sprints that maybe get in 1 or 2 a day, but whenever they saw an opportunity, I'm going to make a 15-minute sprint, and I'm just going to jot down, anything I can think about. Okay, here's our point of sale systems.
Yep.
Here's the process, blah, blah, blah. 15 minutes later, done. I'm back to my normal job.
Right.
And talked about how this person built a business on 15-minute sprints.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
I don't think I've listened to that one.
In
That's
the midst of a 40+ hour career,
right.
Built a business on 15-minute sprints.
That's awesome.
And so,
but it's exactly to the point.
I mean,
right?
that's the entrepreneurial advice of how do you launch something when you got a gig.
Right.
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 You got a gig.
Right.
It's your business now.
Right.
Take 15-minute sprints.
Should even
set aside.
Take your lunch hour.
I mean, even like
15 minutes of your lunch hour.
Yeah, even like Tim
Every day.
Ferriss's 4-hour work week, right?
Yeah.
That a little bit different purpose, but
Right.
what if you just said, I'm going to take 4 hours this week, or 30 minutes a day? That's 5 days. That's 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
That's
yeah.
2.5 hours creating, working on your business that you're not doing today.
Right.
And what kind of difference would 2.5 hours a week make?
Right.
Huge.
Yeah.
It would have huge benefits to you.
I completely agree.
And so,
can you imagine doing that for 52 weeks of the year? Or 52 weeks of the year?
I'm not going to do the math on that.
No, I'm not going to do the math
52
on that.
times 2,
If you think about like that, I mean, if you just took the 2 hours, right? 2 hours and 52 weeks, we'll throw a little fudge factor in there, right?
Right.
But that's 100 hours a year, right?
Right. That's like taking 2 weeks off to work on your business.
Right. Like
plus. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks of time spent on something that you're focused and intentional on. Right. And I guarantee you that as you progress, it's going to come easier and easier. It's part of that getting out of the gate and doing it.
Right.
Setting that new, what do they call it? Habit. So that you can know that, hey, I'm going to do this real quick for 15 minutes. And it's not like you can sacrifice.
You go to any business. You go to any business owner and you're like, hey, I think you should take let's go 3 weeks off. And I just want you to do nothing but working on your business during those 3 weeks. What business owner would be able to do that?
Oh, yeah, I know.
No, that's a mountain.
It is.
And so I think, going back to Gerber and the E-Myth, right? That when you think of your business as the product and you want to work on your business, you want to create this franchise or this sellable business. That's kind of where we started this conversation, right?
Right.
That just feels like a giant mountain you got to climb.
Totally.
But if you just do it step by step,
right?
Little 15, 30-minute sprints here or there, and you just throw things down, get it on paper, and just get it out of your head.
I'm so glad we're talking about this because one, we just discussed the fact that I was purchasing a business not too long ago, and two, like I realized in that process, I need to be thinking about that. Because, even though that my expectation is I'm not going to sell my businesses, like the 2 that I own, that have been my startups and pretty much followed on I've been running for a while. I have no plans on selling them, but I've also went, at some level, if I should consider that though, not that I want to sell them, but then I know it's viable.
Right.
Like at any one point, should something happen and they should have to sell them, then I have the processes in place so that they can be taken over by somebody else and run.
Right.
Or that they can continue to run without me. I mean, there might be a time and a place where I'm not needed, and that's okay.
Right.
Right. I think for many business owners, that's scary.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I don't know that I can not be valuable to the business. You know what? Work yourself out.
Right.
And do something else. Like, because you can do something else. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I honestly think that some people get freaked out by that. I'm like, you know what? If you can groom somebody to take over your spot and help grow that business, and you have like you said, you have a product, then at that point, your business is your product. You can either duplicate it and do it somewhere else, or you can add to it if you really wanted to. If it's, which is really cool idea because then I can't think of his name with the 400 businesses.
Oh, Branson. Richard Branson.
Richard Branson. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like if you have it totally makes sense to how he can get to the point where you own 400 businesses. I think is what the number was. I don't quote me.
It was over, yeah.
Something
like that.
So a crazy amount of businesses that he's involved with, but he's not. Like he's involved in the fact that
yes,
he owns them, but he's not involved with the fact that he's got to show up there at 400 businesses every day to make things happen.
Right.
Which is a neat concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if, as an entrepreneur, I was just had a meeting this morning and they were telling me, there's always somebody bigger that's done more. And
Oh, yeah.
that, and not that I want to be the top guy, because I don't know that I ever want to sit that high, but it's a neat idea to think like I could be more than just this one business that I own. Mm-hmm. Or, why, when I first started, I told people I wanted to own 5 businesses, and they were like, "You're crazy. You don't need to own 5 businesses. Why don't you just focus on one?" I had so many people tell me that. And I was like, "Nope, the number's 5. I don't know why the number is 5, but it's been 5, and my guess is at some point it's going to change. And it's going to be bigger than 5,
or it might be like 1,
right? Or it might be back to 1. Yeah, like
right.
But it's if it's your dream and you need to figure out how to get there, then focus on that. Mm-hmm. Focus on that. That, like you said, it's a product. That one business is a product.
Yeah. All right. So to recap. Think about your entire business as the product, something that you're trying to sell, even if you're not going to sell it, or franchise it. Think about it in those terms, so that you have what's in place to be successful for tomorrow. And to get there, you could spend 15 minutes a day, every day. Just build that routine in.
I still can't get over that. Like 15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
How many times have you sat down and watched YouTube or something just ridiculous? You didn't get anything out of it except the 15 minutes of enjoyment, but yet you could have taken your life to another level in 15 minutes.
Right. Well, and there's the other reviewing your day. We talked about this a number of episodes ago, of kind of contemplating, thinking through your day. What went well, what could have gone better, how could I have changed things, what do I need to work on tomorrow? Yeah. That if you take that 15 minutes at the end of your day just to review, there's like a 30% increase in productivity associated with that. Just taking 15 minutes to think about the day you just did.
Okay, so basically, if you listen to this podcast and you haven't changed something tomorrow, re-listen to this podcast.
Well, I'm going to be listening to a lot of episodes.
Because you need 15 minutes a day, which is nothing. It's a drop in the bucket for your day.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you spend it on YouTube, or you spend it on Netflix, or you spend it on
and the crazy part is probably a majority of America does that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'd be curious to know what the stats are. But how many entrepreneurs, millionaires, decamillionaires, whatever, gazillionaires, watch TV every day or watch YouTube? They probably don't. They probably don't have time for it. I guess I need to change my 15 minutes for tomorrow.
I mean, you can still watch one episode of The Office. Just don't watch 2.
No binge watching.
Yeah, that's what gets us in trouble, probably.
Right,
so
totally.
Not being able to stop. All right. I think we've gone off the rails.
Yep,
long
sorry,
enough,
guys.
Right? So, yeah, beautiful. We totally recommend the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Yes.
Definitely worth looking into, thinking through. And, and there's a lot of people out there that love looking at the big picture.
Yep.
And would be super glad to sit down with you and just be like, we can, what have you thought about it this way? Or have you thought about this way? Or there's the people who love developing processes and systems.
So sure.
And they're so good at detail.
They so are.
And me, I'm not a systems. I mean, I like dreaming up systems in terms of like, here are the 10 milestones that have to happen in the system. But then I don't like living in the systems. Right. Even the ones I even look at and create on my own. I'm like, no, thank you.
Right.
But there are people that love it.
There is.
They eat it up, and they're so good at it. Yep. And so being willing to ask for help. And,
even if it's just, for those that are struggling with that idea and just going, there's no way I'm doing this. Just write down 5 things of the thing that you're thinking about. So there's probably something that you're doing every day. If you could write 5 things that that need to get done, you've kind of almost created your own little mini system. And you don't even have to expound upon that. You can have somebody else do that for you at some point. Because if
just at the high level for today.
If you're a solopreneur, you're the person that probably needs to know that most.
Right.
But the problem becomes when you go to grow.
Yeah.
If you don't put that in place at some level, then it's harder for you to get to the next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, We've ranted enough.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This has been good. Thank y'all for listening.
Yep. Thanks for listening, guys.
We are, really excited to be able to be here for you and showing up like this. And we got some really cool things coming up down the road. We've got interviews set aside with a real estate agent, a financial planner, a young entrepreneur that's servicing your car into a on the spot place. I mean, I'm looking forward to that one. We've got some really cool interviews coming up, and some cool topics. So hang in there, give us a like, subscribe.
Yep.
Shoot us an email.
Send us some comments.
podcast@exanimo.solutions. It'll be in the show notes. Let us know you're listening. If you got a question. If there's a book that has meant a lot to you,
yes, please share those too.
Dude, that might even be something we should look into, is talking about a few more books.
I love that idea.
So, let us know how we can help, how we can serve you guys. So, keep fighting for the highest good for others.
Yes, thanks for listening.
Yeah, we'll catch you next week.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.